Hey there, all you queens and cryptids, and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast hosted by 3 illiterates.
It's not true.
I'm your host, Brett Bodie. Don't ask me to spell it. And with me, as always, are my co-hosts,
Mel.
And I'm Sam, and I did have to take special reading classes when I was a kid, so yeah.
I was hooked on phonics.
I was a late reader. I didn't learn to read until 1st grade. Like, I had the tools, I had the phonics, but I was just not, I couldn't be bothered.
It's because we did Montessori.
Probably. Well, no, that was a Catholic school, actually.
Oh, shit.
When I was, the Catholics taught me to read, and they rejected me from the Gifted and Talented program. And my mom was furious. And I think I never had a chip on my shoulder, and I think she still does.
I think...
So, Mom, you are listening. Shout out to you. It's
I think
okay.
Most of the people I've met who are adults who are in Gifted and Talented programs feel like a bad way about it now.
Yep.
So maybe that was a good thing.
It was. Because it was just like with a nun after school.
None after school.
None after dark. All right.
What are we talking about today?
I'm glad you asked, Samantha.
Oh, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about The Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, we are. From, 1991, I believe.
I'm looking it up. Yep.
God, I'm good. Or lucky.
Oh.
Was that the year both of you were born?
It was.
Yes. And actually, I'm going to jump into my experience
Yeah,
because I was going to note that growing up, I knew it was scary because my mom would always say, it came out in theaters, Silence of the Lambs came out in theaters while she was pregnant with me, and she said, I won't watch it while pregnant. And then I'm not sure if she ever watched it, but I did, like a year ago.
Was that the first time you watched it?
Yep.
A year ago? Okay.
You don't want to have fetal Hannibal syndrome?
I
I don't know why it sounded like that.
That's great.
That's so funny.
It was like I didn't believe in it as I was saying it. And it just...
I liked it.
You didn't have the strength of conviction to,
Yeah.
Oh, God. Mel, what's your history with this film?
I don't remember. I mean, as everybody knows who's listening to this, I had no censorship, so I'm sure I watched this way too young. And it's not the kind of movie that would have connected with me when I was too young, you know, because it doesn't have like a ton of action or even like that much like violence or gore.
Yeah, there's
like,
maybe one scene that's very violent and gory, and that's...
But for a movie that's so famous for being extreme and uncomfortable and like, I don't know, just it makes you feel like dirty.
Yes.
And it's actually not that...
Like explicit?
Right, explicit's the right word, because it's there. But a lot of it is not understated, but it's not like over the top in the way that it's shown.
My mic stand is losing its direction.
Oh, no!
Oh my God.
Okay, it's because it's not clamped.
Yeah.
Oh, no!
Oh no, it's wilting.
Oh my God.
Technical difficulties. This mic stand is brought to you by Hims. This seems sustainable and fine.
I agree. We all feel fine about this.
So,
Where were we?
yeah, so I think, I watched all these movies probably too young, but they didn't really connect with me in the way that, like, maybe something like, I don't know, Starship Troopers or, like, RoboCop or something that's just, like, really, like, over the top. Like
action-packed and...
This is not an action-packed movie. It has a lot happening, and it's very tense, but it's not something that would, like, hit my dopamine receptors when I was, like, a little kid. But as I've gotten older, I've really learned to appreciate it more. And while it's not the only Hannibal movie I like, I won't talk about that too much because I was told not to. Brett?
We have strict instructions from our producer.
Brett.
Oh, yeah, it's me.
Brett, what's your history with this?
So I probably saw it for the first time in high school. And I think I saw the movie and then I read the series of books. The Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal. And yeah, it remains my favorite of the movies and the books. Silence of the Lambs. I've also grown to appreciate it more as I've aged. I always enjoyed it and appreciated it, but I think I see it in through such a different lens now, where I'm like, to me it's less about like being a serial killer thriller and has kind of more interesting ideas. And yeah, so what prompted us to choose this is that the three of us, and redacted, which one? I'll never tell. Went to see a screening of this on the big screen.
4K restoration.
And it was glorious. And only 2 people fell down during the screening.
So we went to go see it.
Neither were me.
Yeah,
it was none of us.
It was none of us, so
we went to go see it at the historic Texas Theater, who, shout out to them, we love them.
yes, where Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested. He was apprehended after the JFK assassination while sitting in a seat there.
And it's genuinely a very cool theater, and they do a lot of awesome events. Brett and I have gone many times for many different things. We don't live near it, but if we did, I'm sure I would go way more.
I would live there instead, if I lived near it.
It's the coolest place. But we went and saw it, and they're like upstairs, and like it's just so not renovated. And I am guessing, I have to assume that the stairs must be very thin and hard to see because people were eating shit throughout this movie.
They sure were.
I will also say, I was having a drink during this movie, and that Texas Theater...
Did you enjoy the lack of cup holders?
There's no cup holders in the upstairs. But also, this is the second time I've gotten a drink from the Texas Theater where it's been, like, over-poured, where it's too much alcohol.
Oh, yeah. And I was saying, I often see people getting
shit-faced.
Like turned at these screenings.
Brett and I went to go see a screening of Scream.
Oh my god.
And there was the drunkest bitch. And then I went to go see, were you at Bruce-A-Rama with me? We went to Bruce-A-Rama with Bruce Campbell, and there were just like...
I forgot about that woman who was like, say my first name, I have the most unique and interesting first name you've ever heard.
It was just Andromeda, it's not that weird.
Her name was Andromeda, and she just wanted Bruce Campbell to say that.
And and to his credit, he would not say it, because he hated her as much as everyone else did. But it's like
Bruce Campbell does not, don't play that game.
But I will say... I actually think it might have something to do with the fact that, like, the drinks they serve there are far too strong. Mm. Like, I asked for a gin and ginger ale, and it was, like, 3/4 gin. And that happened to me before with the Tom Collins. So I think I will place some of the blame on the structure of the steep staircases. But I do think people were also drunk as fuck.
Yes, and it is a common sight.
Yeah, people were falling all over the place.
Loudly.
Yeah.
Throughout this, like, quiet movie.
Yeah, it did add, it changed the ambiance, let's say.
Well, it wasn't a rowdy showing.
No,
like,
it wasn't.
Everyone was very respectful, and you could tell there were
people
a lot...
People were clearly into the movie,
I think, like, half the people there were, like, people who've seen it a million times, and maybe the other half were people who've never seen it.
Probably.
Was the vibe I was getting. And everyone was very into it, and then there were drunk people falling all around us.
Yeah, but I loved getting to see it on the big screen in this beautiful restoration.
It looked great.
Looked amazing, and even more unsettling on the big screen because so much of this film is in tight close-ups on the actors' faces, and there's a lot of speaking right into the camera.
Well, the men.
Yeah, it's not a fourth wall break. I actually think it's so
POV.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's POV. It puts you in Clarice Starling's shoes, and you see how these men stare at her body, try to intimidate her throughout the whole movie, and it's like almost every male character.
Well,
kind of everyone at various times. Yeah.
It is, and something I wanted to mention about watching this movie as a kid versus watching it as an adult. So Clarice is said to be a recent grad from UVA. So she's presumably 24 years old or so. 23, 24.
That was the sense I got.
Right. And so
she's an FBI recruit, but she's still at the academy.
She's at the academy. So it's like when you're watching this as a kid, I just sort of coded her as adult.
Yeah.
This is an adult who isn't that much different, at least honestly, in my mind's eye, even as a teenager, not that different from her boss. Not that different from even a Hannibal Lecter, at least age-wise.
Two adults talking in a room.
It's adults talking. She's a grown woman. And then as I'm watching this as someone who is like a decade older, I'm ready for my substance, but not really. As someone who's a decade older than how she's supposed to be portrayed in this, and seeing that like power dynamic of men who are older than I am, and how they are leering at her, and it's just, and
it's disgusting.
It is, and it's
it really is
so much
skin-crawling.
more like noticeable.
Yeah.
I will say, like watching this on the big screen as an old, and being like, yeah, actually, Crawford, back off.
Yeah,
Gross.
You're being gross.
Jack
Gross.
Crawford sucks.
Like you're not.
I
you're
think
not
that in every
cute.
adaptation. Yeah,
You're not being cute.
Mm-mm.
No. If you haven't seen this movie, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I agree.
Go do it.
I mean, if nothing else, like, watch it and form an opinion, because this is essential, not just horror cinema, this is essential cinema. This, famously, is the only horror movie ever to have won the Big Five Academy Awards.
Oh, really?
It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, it was Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor, and Best Actress. It swept the Oscars that year. And for good reason.
I can't say it's undeserved.
And that's why people say that it's not horror, it's actually a thriller. Because whenever it gets a horror movie gets critical acclaim,
Like
it's
Get
a
Out.
thriller. Yes, like Get Out.
Sorry, guys.
I can't
Thriller.
wait for the substance to be called a thriller if it gets
Thriller
award
is
consideration.
just a subgenre of horror. Sorry about it. We have a serial killer in this. We have someone, spoiler alert, we have someone ripping off someone else's face and wearing it.
Yeah.
This is a horror movie.
And-
We have a
and-
man
We have
wearing
two
the
serial killers, not
skin.
one.
Yeah, and a different person who's making a dress of women's skin.
This is horror.
Yeah,
And it's also horror in the male gaze stuff.
absolutely. This is like, to me, this is misogyny, the movie. Not that the movie is misogynist, but the point of it is to depict that. It is, and it's showing it through the serial killer's power over women, like the way Buffalo Bill is like, almost like to me, and I'm curious, maybe we should just get into it now.
Let's get into it.
Because a lot of the, I guess, controversy about this film in more recent years
Are we
is
talking about
the sort of
the
trans,
discourse?
yeah. Well, and to me, it's so interesting because, yeah, this movie gets called transphobic a lot. I understand. And to me, I mean, they explicitly say that Buffalo Bill is not a trans person.
Transgenders are passive.
Transsexuals are generally passive, what she says.
You sound like Paula Dean.
Yeah, but
Also
hopefully less
problematic.
racist, yeah.
Problematic.
This is not time for N-word corner. I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
N-word corner music here.
N-word corner.
Yeah. And if you don't know, now you know.
Samantha.
God, I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to me, Buffalo Bill is a great depiction. It does have a lot of interesting things to say, but it's funny because Buffalo Bill, like, is the character that, like, conservatives, like the trans boogeyman character of, like, it's just a man in a dress who's trying to appropriate a woman's identity and, you know, like, he can use the bathroom to prey on women.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is what this character is.
Mhm.
That is not what trans women are like in reality. But I get why this gets those comparisons, even though to me, I'm like, I think it's like a brilliant depiction of those like misogynistic themes taken to their very most extreme.
Well, that's what I think he is.
Yeah.
I think that he's not a woman.
Right.
He is another version of misogyny.
Exactly.
It's someone who fetishizes femininity while victimizing women, which is, sorry to tell you, JK, not a thing that really happens.
No. Right.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's a reason why whenever you hear about serial killers, it's not this shit. It
Yes.
only exists in Criminal Minds and movies like this.
Right. I know a lot, because I'm that person. I know a lot about a lot of serial killers.
Are a bunch of them like this?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I literally thought you meant you because you took off your glasses. Why are
Like
you revealing?
this.
I can't see it.
I'm
Actually, yes,
revealing
and actually on a closer
that
Are you
look.
a serial killer?
No, but I had a crusty in my eye. Equally horrific.
I was going to say maybe equally as bad. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that, right? And I don't think this is transphobic in the way it talks about trans people either. It's just dated. She's not like, no one is saying anything.
Yeah, we don't really say transsexual anymore. But
yeah, well, and
it's the 90s.
What Clarice's saying, like, when she says, like, transsexuals are very passive, she's saying, like, according to the literature that we have, which at the time was true.
Right.
You know, she's not showing any prejudice. She's like, I've read about it, and this is what I read in the literature.
Yeah, and Hannibal is like, he's not a real transsexual.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Mr. Gatekeep.
Right, so it sounds a lot of weird stuff, like, in sort of our modern perspective.
Yeah, but I also
But to me, like, it's a product of its time more so. I don't find it, I'm not trans, so I don't
That's to
speak for
say,
anyone
I
but me,
also
but I
totally get trans women finding this movie deeply upsetting and problematic.
Oh, me too.
Because again, you're never gonna, like, I don't know, like, find a transphobic space where this is not the ghost haunting their zeitgeist,
and
right? Like, Buffalo Bill is just, like,
right.
part of the, as you said, this movie is so big. It's such a part of our, like, cultural history, and it has a dude in it who tucks his wiener, kills women, and wears their skin, and appropriates their femininity in a way that is, like, fucking a chum line. To go back to our Jaws episode, check it out. But it is. It's like chum to the transphobic, haters.
And I won't dispute that this movie has had a negative effect on Cultural Arch's perception of trans people. I think some of this has kind of seeped in. People who haven't bothered to educate themselves beyond this, or maybe, especially in the 90s, you know, didn't know trans people, and
I mean,
it did have a negative effect.
If you don't know what a trans person is, and you think it's literally just dudes cross-dressing, then yes, you're going to see something like Silence of the Lambs or Longlegs, and you're going to be like, that's a trans person. And like, nope, sorry, trans women they're just women.
Right.
It's actually not that interesting.
They're just people like you and me, like it, yeah.
I mean, theoretically more passive. According to the literature.
I was going to say, according to the literature, I'm just saying.
No, but it's important to talk about because it's become such a inescapable piece of this as, you know, we sort of entered the modern era. Mm-hmm. Because we are, you know, over 30 years out from this movie coming out. And and it's just, like, an interesting part of it.
Yeah, right? It is. Well, and I think it just goes to show, like, unintended consequences.
I don't think it was ever, what's his name? Jonathan Demme. Like, I don't think it was ever his intention to be saying anything other than what we said, which is probably, these are the different sort of, like, stylings of misogyny.
Yes. I think, and from the direction, especially the more I watch it, the more I see it through that lens, I'm like, it's so clear. That's what the movie is about. Like, it's about the male gaze and misogyny and how Clarice, even the most, like, brave, smart, capable woman in the world, like, has to walk such a fine line and is like, every second is an uphill battle. Not just because of what she's doing is difficult, which it is, but because of all the men who make it so much more difficult.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, no matter what she does, she's a woman.
Right. And it's like, and she's basically like Superman. You know what I mean? Like, she is like as skilled as like what someone can be.
Well, and we see her, like, the opening credits is her presumably putting in extra time.
Yes.
Into this, like, outdoor obstacle course.
Also, was so excited during, because during the obstacle course and listening to the music, I was like, oh, it's so good. Good use of strings. And then Mel turned to Brett and I and was like, look, because it showed the composer and it was Howard Shore. And I was like, of course it is. Of course it is.
Killing it yet again.
So good.
Absolutely wonderful score.
Because I was vibing from the start.
Oh, yeah. Editor Brett here. So, as Samantha mentioned, the score to this film was composed by Howard Shore. So, a brief explanation. The three of us here at Queer and Loathing are huge fans of this man's music, mostly due to his work on Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films. Mel, Samantha, and myself absolutely love those movies, and Howard Shore's music is a huge part of why they're so amazing. Okay, well, I have to stop talking about Lord of the Rings, or we'll be here for days. Back to Silence of the Lambs.
So good.
Oh, it's so good. And yeah, I think that is, I love, we were talking about sort of visual metaphor in our last episode of The Substance. Go check it out. And this has a great one right off the bat because it's Clarice Starling, our protagonist, literally climbing uphill, like hauling herself up a hill with a rope by herself. Yeah, putting in extra time, going the extra mile.
It's what she does the whole rest of the movie.
Yes, and she's interrupted from that by a man saying another man needs to see you in his office. So she didn't get to finish her obstacle course. Because Jack Crawford's got to see you right away, and she doesn't have time to change.
Doesn't have time to change.
She goes, sweaty as the day is long, and she just, is walking through the halls of the FBI.
With a bunch of dudes leering at her.
Yep. She seems, there was one classmate, male classmate, during her walk that she kind of, says hi to. And that's, the only man we see just be kind of normal, friendly, and passing with her in the whole movie.
And it's funny because, we don't have to tell anyone who's listening to this podcast because you're all woke. You understand. You're not like this. But there's that idea of, what was she wearing? She's doing this. The sort of Jordan Peterson, why do women wear blush and lipstick? It's because they want to show that. Did you like my voice?
I was like, that's a surprise for our listeners. We have Jordan Peterson here in studio.
Because they want to simulate sexual arousal. And it's like this woman is sweaty in a sweatshirt,
Yes.
formless clothes. She's got, her hair is just, she's been working out.
Oh yeah.
She don't got makeup on for at least this part of it.
Yeah.
Later she utilizes her looks, but not in a way that's extreme.
Yeah.
Right? And they say, she wears perfume. We learned that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not someone who is, it feels dirty even saying this, but it's not someone who's trying to grab the male gaze of all of the other agents at the academy. This is she just wants to be an agent. I
was going to say, if anything, she's so singularly focused on her goal of becoming an agent and working in behavioral sciences.
Yeah.
It must be exhausting. I was so exhausted for her from the start.
Me too. From that whole sequence where she's walking through, and then that glorious shot where she gets on the elevator, and Jodie Foster's pretty short. She gets in the elevator, and it's all men, and they're towering above her. And kind of looking at which floor she's going to. You can see some wheels turning of where's she going? Presumably because it's that's where the leadership is on that floor. So they're what's she doing there? And it just asks to see Jack Crawford, and they're kind of give her a look what business does this bitch have?
23-year-old, beautiful young woman.
Right. She needs to see Jack Crawford in his office. Okay. Yeah, and just it's such a simple sequence because it's just her going from the obstacle course through sort of another more metaphorical obstacle course up to his office. But it tells you everything that the movie's going to explore.
She can do both.
She sure can.
She can navigate both obstacle courses. And again, not something that I picked up on when I was younger. I think there's probably a lot of misogynistic people who could watch this movie and enjoy it and not even understand what the movie's about.
Totally.
You can watch this movie and just be oh, it's about this freaky weird guy, serial killer with tension, just not even understand what this, they're that's weird about those lambs.
Yeah.
I wish that, I skip over that part. Those kinds of people.
Well, I absolutely hate this hypothetical person.
It's probably a lot. It's probably over half the people who've seen this movie.
I imagine so.
So it's an amazing opening. And again, it tells you everything you need to know about at least what this movie is about and what it's going to be like for our character, I almost said our titular character, Mrs. of the Lambs. Or Miss.
She's Ms. of the Lambs.
Ms. MX.
It's the 90s.
Yeah. But it's, very masterfully done. And as Brett said, so much of this movie is about, like, the POV of, like, when it's close, tight-in shots of her, she's doing what most people do in movies, which is they're looking slightly off camera, so it's not unnerving.
Yes.
For the people at home, or feels fourth wall breaking. And whenever it's a man looking at her, they are looking straight into the lens.
And it is like a close-up, or at least simulating like her approximate distance. Unless it's a very intense scene and then it's much closer. Because that's how intense conversations feel. So you're really just like in her shoes in a way that I can't really think of many movies that do such a great job of it. It's like, you are Clarice Starling and you feel how she feels in those moments. And it's not so overblown, there's not a ton of attention drawn to it, but the filmmaking makes it really clear. I'm like, man, she's having a hard time in her life. Yeah. And it's because she's such a gifted student and so driven. Because that's how she gets Jack Crawford's attention, to be put on this assignment. And he specifically wanted an attractive, younger woman for this assignment. Because what he has her do is he has her go and talk to the incarcerated serial killer, Hannibal Lecter.
Normal guy.
Very normal guy. Someone you'd be happy to call your friend and neighbor. Unless you're his actual neighbor, like in the cell next to him.
Well.
Oh, God.
But you know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I don't.
No great loss there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's an upsetting moment.
Friend of the pod, Meeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Or Miggs.
Oh, whatever.
Was it? I don't remember. But yeah.
Something.
But yeah, and it's so that, and ostensibly, it's to make Hannibal do this, like, personality survey thing. It's like a diagnostic tool. But that's not really what it is. And Clarice has kind of figured out right away. Because she's in Jack Crawford's office, like, the head of behavioral sciences, waiting for him. And she sees his huge crime board of the Buffalo Bill serial killing. And so, people who haven't seen probably don't know, but in this movie, Hannibal is not the villain that they're trying to catch. He's already been caught. He's in prison. They're trying to get his help and input to catch an active serial killer, Buffalo Bill, who has been killing women and cutting off bits of their skin and dumping them in the river. Yeah. And so Clarice is, like, she doesn't know for sure, I think, but she's already kind of like, does this have anything to do with Buffalo Bill? Jack Crawford's like, no.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm in the academy. I'm here to figure things out.
Well, Crawford thinks he's, like, playing her.
Right.
But she's actually not an idiot.
She's a dumb woman.
But I think there's so much of it. Yeah. I think he thought, like, oh, I'm just going to get this competent, attractive young woman.
Yeah.
And, like, unfortunately for him, and also fortunately for him, she's, like, the most competent person in the movie.
Oh, by a country mile. She and Hannibal are the only competent people in this movie, really. Yeah, and then she goes to the hospital to visit Hannibal Lecter. First, she has to stop in Dr. Chilton's office, who runs the FBI.
What a great
role. Love Dr. Chilton because he is the slimiest, most egotistical, like, horny, disgusting piece of shit.
But it's great because, like, our first sort of, like, three men that we see her interacting with for an extended period of time is like, ooh, it's the older mentor. He just wants to take you under his wing and show you a thing or two.
And he's giving you this great opportunity for a young recruit.
Right, just totally gross shit, masquerading as allyship or something, right? And this is so common. And then we have sort of the, like, almost like over the top, like, disgusting slime ball misogyny, where he almost
he has tried to take her out on the town for a drink.
He reminds me of the equivalent of, like, the like Tinder date sort of, like, hey, baby, like, you want to do this? You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Like, oh, no, sorry. Okay, you fugly bitch. I
Yes.
didn't like
Oh,
you
yeah.
anyway. Like, that's his thing. And then you have Hannibal, who's like, he's doing sort of the pantomime of etiquette, but he might, like, literally eat you.
Yeah.
But he's almost like, of the men in this, though, he's one of the few that, I don't know, treats her somewhat equally. He's an
agree.
equal opportunity hater.
No, exactly, because he only likes people who he finds interesting and polite. Those are the most important things to Hannibal.
She is both of those things.
And she is both of those things, and he, as he interacts with her more, he becomes more and more convinced of that, to the point where he doesn't see her as an equal, but I think he sees her as the closest thing to an equal that he's encountered in years.
Well, at least, like, he probably doesn't think any person is as smart as him.
Right.
Or like, is of his level, but he sees her as someone who he does not find repulsive and offensive.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think he doesn't like people that he sees as sort of, like, base, filthy, you know, animals, right? That's why he eats people, is he sees them as animals to be slaughtered. He sees Clarice as a higher being, closer to the same, like, plane.
Yeah, like, most people are animals. Clarice is a human, and he's a god. Would probably
I think
be
that's totally
his
fair.
conception. But yeah, so Dr. Chilton leads her through the halls to go visit Hannibal. He's, like, alternately, like, hitting on her and trying to scare her. He shows her this picture of, like, well, don't stand too close, because last time Hannibal was whatever, he bit off this nurse's nose and ate her tongue, and here's a picture. And he shows her, like, as she's about to walk in.
He's trying to intimidate her, yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's so horrible. As if she wouldn't already be terrified. As anyone would be. Like, especially a small woman, but I think anyone with any kind of sense of fear would be, I would be scared. To go into the, like, one of the two sets that are, like, basically depicted as, like, hell. Like, down in solitary confinement. It's, like, in this, like, cave, practically.
Yeah.
It's this horrible cavern, and...
Seems dank and dark.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of guns on the wall, and there's all these gates and all these security guards. But she's going in there alone. And...
Put out a chair for her.
Well, because Dr. Chilton is trying to accompany her, and she says, oh, I'm, like... And she's having to play, like, oh, I'm so sorry, Doctor, but, like, I think it might be better if I...
Well, because he's like, oh, he sees me as his arch nemesis. And she's like, well...
Yeah, since that...
If he sees you as the arch nemesis, maybe you shouldn't be here, you fucking idiot. Like,
and he basically calls her a bitch, but in because she's like, oh, well, you could have told me that in my office and saved me the trip. Yeah. And she says, but then I would have been deprived of the pleasure of your company.
Yeah, she
so
plays
great.
him.
And I love that, because that's when he's kind of like, okay, bitch. That's when he kind of sees, like, that she is also savvy. Again, that she's not just some dumb bitch, which I guess all these men assume she is.
I will say, just quickly, I do think it's interesting that there are some men in this movie that are portrayed as maybe, like, less aggressively disgusting and misogynistic, and they
Barney, the security guard, right at the
I was
scene.
gonna say, it's some of the people that are more seen as, like, her equals, or have, like, lower totem pole ranking, like, more working class people.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, the way that she interacts with, you said his name is Barney? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the security guy. And then even, though there's some weirdness there, the interaction that she has with the two bug nerds.
I was going to, that's the other one I was going to mention.
Because it seems like they hit it off. I don't know. They invite him to
the
graduation and they're there. So
I don't think I noticed that until this viewing. I don't know why.
Theoretically, she hit it off with the wall-eyed bug guy.
Yeah.
I did want to ask that... something I noticed in this, and I don't know if it's coincidence or if I'm reading too much into it or what, is I do feel like there's a lot of a weird sort of eyeball, like, looking off in weird directions. I can say this because I'm slightly wall-eyed. But, like, you do have some people who are more like, sorry, I just touched your foot with my foot, and I know how much you love feet. I don't know.
For listeners, that's not true. I hate feet. Yeah. Don't send me any feet in the mail.
Ew.
Well,
what about serial killers?
But maybe I'm reading too much into that. But I feel like because it was so close in on the eyes, and I do feel like there are more than one person that they're zooming in on who kind of are looking askance.
Yeah, you might be right.
I may be wrong. I might be right. think about it.
But also, all of these close-ups are so extreme, and especially on the big screen, you see it, and in the 4K restoration.
And we were in the second row.
You see everything about everyone's face. It's there, like 30 feet tall. Yeah. Well, I think it's time for an ad break.
Yeah, what ad did you prepare to read today,
Yeah.
Brett?
So this episode today is sponsored by solitary confinement.
Oh.
Take some time for yourself. Have a nice little staycation. You got a little cot, a cot and 3 hots. Is that what they say? 3 hot meals? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You might get some televangelist on TV to watch. You can do a little sketch and hang it on your wall until it gets taken away.
Throw cum in a woman's face.
You might as well, when in solitary. That's what they say. Or just like be in a weird cage in the middle of a museum gallery.
It's just how they do it in Tennessee.
Yeah,
okay?
might be nice.
Just leave up the artwork.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you've got your sketches, nothing can harm you. On that note, we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everyone.
Christ.
I've been enjoying my time in solitary confinement. What about you guys?
I cannot abide being alone.
Well, I'm always stuck in this head, so it's always a little bit of solitary confinement. So it's fine.
All 3 extremely normal.
Yeah, I was like, I love solitary confinement. I can sit in my room by myself for days.
I often say...
And I'm happy as a clam. I'm such good company, you guys.
So
I love my company.
We can think about this for Samantha, but I think for Brett and I, there are jobs that don't exist anymore that would have been perfect for us. So for me, I should have been a court jester. Really
Yes.
missing out on that still being a viable pathway. Or I don't know, the fool of the village. Brett...
Court jester is good because also you get to make lots of barbs at nobility.
Which, I can't help but do anyway.
Yeah,
but you can get away with it.
Plus, free room and board.
Yeah, no, it's a good gig,
It's really the one I should have had. And another one that's free room and board that would have been perfect for Brett is being a hired hermit that lives in a hermitage on someone's estate. Very, the cherry orchard. That's the missed out opportunity that you don't get to have
It's
anymore.
the Brett that could have been.
It really would have been perfect for you. Sam, have you ever thought about this?
No, I just want a job where I can sleep and daydream. So I've got nothing.
Well, there was that study that NASA did or something where it's like, can you lie in bed for 45 days or whatever?
Professional bed rotting.
Right, but I also want to be I want to spend time inside, I want to spend time outside.
You do like your outside time.
That's why I can't go full indoor
Recluse.
hermit. Yeah, exactly, because I do need my outside time.
Yeah.
Also, I do like specific people.
Sure.
Also, not always great for Black people to travel back in time.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. It's really cute when people are like, the days back in the 1800s. And I'm like, for who?
Right. The good old days for whomst.
For whomst?
No one on this podcast.
Yeah, none of us.
I mean, Brett could have had a roommate that he was really good friends with until they both died.
Yep. Confirmed bachelor.
And I could have been on a lot of Valium.
Well, now that you mention it. No, it wouldn't be worth it.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
I agree. So this...
I also agree.
Okay.
I know you thought maybe I didn't agree, but...
No, I didn't.
Why?
Because everyone likes this movie.
Oh, okay.
No,
I thought you said you didn't think I liked it. But...
Oh, no. I thought you'd like it.
Yeah.
I was just saying it'd be funny if you had a really spicy take about a movie that's because I feel like we've done some really big classics on this. We've done Jaws, we've done Alien. We're gonna do more. And these are ones that we're picking because they've stood the test of time.
Yes.
Right? Eventually, we will do some older movies that are maybe a little bit more, I don't know, schlocky or exploitative.
Or even still good, but just more divisive, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If we cover original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I would not be surprised if Samantha didn't like it.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
that's
saw the
fair.
remake.
I
Did
also
you
like the
like it?
remake.
I was 12.
Well,
That's a good time
I'm
to
not
see it,
sure.
I think. Yeah. Well, the original's different, despite it having the same plot. Quite a different vibe.
but I think like Silence of the Lambs is just so well crafted
Yeah.
that if you don't like it, it's because you just, I don't know, you need like your dopamine receptors to be like getting hit with explosions all the time or something.
Yeah, or you like find it offensive, which is fair, but like I think the quality of filmmaking and the quality of the script and performances are so high. Not to say there's not reasons someone could not enjoy it, but it really would be a hot take to be like, I think it's a bad movie.
If you think it's poorly crafted, you're just being a contrarian.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you're just looking to be a hater.
Right, because it actually is
there's-
so well done.
It's really well done. And like the pacing is really good.
And possibly, in my opinion, possibly Jodie Foster's finest hour. She is a really good actor, don't get me wrong, but this might be her best performance.
I've got to open the door, else I'm gonna pass out.
Oh.
Need some air. It is a little warm.
I'm a vampire, so I enjoy being in my coffin.
Oh.
Yeah, solitary confinement.
Yeah, but I would need a friend.
Oh,
Um,
like a coffin, but like there's a little cutout so you can like hold your friend's hand.
Oh, yeah, and then you just put like a blanket over it so you
Yeah.
don't burn up. I could swing it. And part of the movie, going back to Jodie Foster, is that her character has a noticeable Southern drawl, which already...
She's from West Virginia.
Yes, and it is like for our 0.5% of the people who listen to this that are not American or born in America or live in America.
Shout out to you. You're a real one for listening. Thank you. We love you.
We love you. Tell your friends about us.
Please.
It's very much a thing in the US, even today, even though accents are not as regionalized as they used to be, to see Southern accents as equitable to being stupid.
Yes.
Like, it is very much a thing. It has been a thing for a long time. We have not escaped it.
No, it may be a thing forever. It will certainly be a thing for the rest of our lives.
As long as the accent still exists. As much as these kinds of accents are less prominent now, they're still around, especially in more rural, sort of localized pockets.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is very meaningful.
Oh yeah, well,
that
it's
she has
another
it.
way that that cause people to underestimate her. She's like a short, young woman with a prominent West Virginia accent.
Yeah, it's like all these stereotypes.
Like by the stereotypes, she should be like a huge pushover and like kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But
She's not.
she's sure not.
Yeah, she's not. And
But I also love her characterization because she is, like I said, so skilled, just so smart and so brave, but she's not like a superhuman. Like, she has feelings. She has a horrible traumatic thing happen in this scene that we're talking about, and she goes and cries outside of her car.
Yeah.
And
you know what? Who wouldn't after experiencing that?
oh my god, I would react so much worse.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, she kept it together really well. She didn't cry till she got out of the building.
When Hannibal gets in her head, because she's
Oh.
instructed not to let him get her talking, because he is a sort of like old school style psychotherapist who's like gonna
Yes.
wheedle out your like childhood traumas and how they shape you, like very like sort of old school style, like Freudian psychotherapy. And she for better or worse, she falls for it, which endears Hannibal to her.
Well, and I think it's less that she falls for it.
She
more
knows
that,
she has to do
yeah,
it.
she like chooses to because she knows that's what, like, she's got to get this done for Jack Crawford. She's afraid that she won't get the career advancement that she's wanting if she doesn't. Like, she has to trade away her personal information to the cannibal so that she can be in the FBI.
And there's a version of this, which I'm glad we didn't get, but there are other movies like this where they do this thing where it's revealed, oh, I just made that up. That never really happened. And I like
and
in
you
this...
couldn't for Hannibal, which
Exactly.
obviously this movie, that version could
didn't
exist,
they
but it's
say,
like...
don't lie to him, he can tell when you lie.
Yes, and he can.
He can. Well, that's
He
and
calls
that's
her out
the
at one
reason.
point.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the reason why, at least what Jack Crawford says, is the reason why he didn't tell her in the beginning what her true task was, because there's no way she'd be able to hide it from Hannibal. So he has to sort of just send her in with like a red
So cute,
herring.
he
I
didn't
know.
cover up his fucking board.
Well, and it was so funny because it's like Clarice knows and Hannibal knows without you telling them. You're not subtle, Jack. Like, everyone knows what you're doing. In that first scene, he's like, oh, is this about Buffalo Bill?
Well, it's almost like the FBI are fucking idiots, as I've talked about before on this
Well,
podcast.
and I guess
It
it
is
kind of
very as if,
makes Hannibal's feel like Clarice and him are on the same side. Because
Yeah,
someone's withholding information, even though they can figure it out.
that's true. Although, she does kind of maybe potentially get one over on him for a second.
Well, she does.
Which probably does make him
Which
respect her more.
She does lie to him.
The offer of like, we're gonna
right,
you can
right.
go to Plum Island and swim on the beach at the Animal Diseases Research Facility.
Yeah, she does get him.
Yeah.
But it's because she is so able to leverage what she knows is the perception. Because not only is she perceived as a short, Appalachian, young woman, she is also perceived as, like, poor.
Oh yeah, that does come up a couple
calling
times.
out her shoes and purse.
He said,
Yeah.
with your good bag and your cheap shoes, you look like a rube.
It's
Like a well-scrubbed, hustling rube.
And you know what?
I'm like, if Anthony Hopkins looked me in the eye and called me a hustling rube, I would need to get cum thrown in my face. I would be crying right then and there. Unless you... Sorry. Unless you want to.
Commit.
Unless you want to throw cum in my face. Mom, don't listen to that part.
And
I hate
that
myself.
was the come in the face corner. Insert music here.
Yeah, so there's that scene, and then as she's leaving, the guy in the cell next to him, as we've alluded to, he's like, oh, I bit my wrist, look at the blood. But it's not blood, it's cum, and he throws it right in her face and hair.
It almost hits her in her eye.
Yeah.
It's very close.
And she's like trying to clean herself up and like get the rest of the way down the hall.
But then Hannibal calls her
Then
back.
Hannibal is like screaming like
Clarice!
just telling, come back. And like, it's almost like for the case, it's almost good that happened because that's like what, like he gives her a hint that he wasn't going to give her in that moment. He's like, go see, was that the like
Yeah, it's a lot of
Lewis Friend thing? A lot of anagrams.
It's a lot of anagrams in there.
Hannibal the cannibal, the anagrammable,
Yeah.
as they say.
They do say that all the time. It's like all I ever hear.
That and
oh my
throw
God.
cum in my face, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry. To myself, not to you guys.
I want to say
take the
Sorry to
apology
me and my
too.
mother, yeah. But yeah, so, and then she goes and cries by her car.
Me too.
But then she gets right back into it and like figures out the clue like right away. And she's like, oh, clearly it was something about yourself. Look at yourself. And she's like, oh, there's a yourself storage here. And there's a unit registered to the name he told me. And
that
I'm
shit
like,
is always
she's
such a stretch,
smart,
but
dude.
whatever. It
Yeah.
works for this movie.
It does. And the idea is like he is trying to lead her there. He is at least picked up on the fact that she is smart. Like he knows that she can figure out these clues.
Or he's
I
testing
think.
her.
Yeah, he's testing her.
I think he is like desperately looking for someone he can spar with.
I agree.
And he's so sick of these
'Cause,
bloated
like,
egos of these like
right.
fucking idiots.
It's so funny, Dr. Chilton saying like, Hannibal considers me his arch nemesis, and I'm like,
No.
you're not even a bug under his shoe.
He's going to eat you, but it's mostly out of spite.
Right, he just thinks
Yeah.
you're like annoying.
Yeah, he finds you to be crass.
Yes.
Which he hates.
He hates it. The thing
Like-
is, if I were to be any fictional serial killer, I would absolutely be Hannibal. I so get just like, you're rude and gross and I hate you and I will kill you.
It's like him and Serial Mom.
Yes.
Like a power couple. Just
Can you imagine how immaculate and tasteful their house would be?
oh. And their neighbors, it's like the worst HOA you've ever experienced.
Yes. Because you will be eaten.
But not before you get some crank calls.
Yes. Yeah, so there's, lots of plot happens. There's a few scenes where she goes and talks to Hannibal. They uncover the case. But maybe the most important thing is eventually she and Jack Crawford go to West Virginia, which is where the like serial killers are. Like the bodies are being dumped in the river. And so I think Clarice sees a lot of herself in these victims.
Yeah.
Because they're young, poor women from this area. So it's kind of like, oh, that's me in a different life.
Yeah, and they're women, you know? I mean, that's like a big part of it is that she's...
It's like the whole thing.
Besides there being, like, she has one friend who...
Ardelia.
Yeah, who gets, like 1 or 2 lines.
Basically.
She doesn't have a lot to do, but, like, you can tell she's extremely important to Clarice in this movie. And, like, everyone else she's interacting with are just men.
Who are all trying to use her for various aims, basically.
Yeah.
Or just disregard her entirely. And, the scene at the police
funeral?
station, the funeral home, exactly, in West Virginia with all the police, is so good. It just shows, like, everything we've been talking about with the misogyny, like...
And her restraint. And Crawford's like, oh, sorry about that. And it's like, you're not
he
sorry.
He wouldn't have wanted a woman in there chatting with me. So.
And you know what? He's probably right. But, like, there's a way you could play it.
Yeah.
And not be part of the fucking problem.
Because he basically says, like, we've got to talk somewhere private. This is too upsetting for a woman to hear.
Yeah.
And he says that in front of all these police officers. And then she's just left, because they're already glaring at her, because it's like, they're local cops in West Virginia.
And the FBI.
And she's a hotshot, like, FBI recruit. So they're just looking at her like, who does this bitch think she is? Like, obviously, it's written all over their faces.
And there's, like, a comical number of them, and they're all towering over her.
Yes, they're all so tall. And she just has, and Jack Crawford brushes her off like that, and she just has to, like, stand there with her little briefcase. And then...
And her purse.
Yeah, and there is a funeral going on. And I love the way they do the flashbacks in this movie. The transitions are so seamless. And it's so clear that she's, like, reliving a memory. And this one is, like, her father's funeral. Because her dad died when she was a child. She loved her father. Her mom died when she was even younger.
But still ACAB.
But...
Even your dead dad.
But,
Friend of the pod.
So sad for her. And then, but because I love that then in the next scene, they're going to examine the body. And she takes the initiative, because she's not tasked with this, but she takes the initiative to kick all of the local cops out of the room for the examination.
And again, she does it in such a diplomatic way.
And they still, like, hate her for it and almost stay to spite her. You can see them, like, looking at each other like, are we actually going to leave?
And again, a comical number of them.
And I also love it because it's like, she's saying it to the cops, but it's almost like she's doing it, like, for Crawford. It's like, I'm not some fucking pushover. Like, I can kick all of these men out of the room, and I will.
I'm not your, like, meek shadow.
Right.
Like, you can
actually
learn something from me.
Right, and I don't need to wait for you to kick them out. I can just kick them out right now. And I love that. And then I love all the reactions to the corpse of the girl, because it's...
All plug our noses.
Oh yeah, they got the Vicks vapor rub under the noses. They're all reacting so viscerally to the body.
It's a pretty bad looking body.
Oh, and you don't even see it for a while, and you don't get a lot of, like, full views of it, because you don't need it, because you can see how much it stinks. But in the shots, you can see all the discoloration. They're like, she was in the water for a week. And Clarice is, like, facing away. She's putting the vapor rub on, and then she kind of takes a deep breath and turns around. And the men make no effort to hide their reactions.
She does.
She has to, like, swallow it and, like...
And it's probably, like, the first nasty corpse she's encountered.
Probably. I mean, I'm sure she's seen other corpses, but I bet it's... but there's a big difference between, like, a cadaver that's, like, being used in, like, a classroom versus...
A cadaver that's already been, like, treated, or,
right.
like, a fresh cadaver, not, like, a waterlogged, nasty, brutalized...
Right, who's you in an alternate life, basically. I love that scene where he's talking to the senator. He's in his iconic mask
Yeah.
That is probably an image that if you're at all familiar with this movie or the character, you know, with the bars across the mouth.
It's because he's chompy.
Oh, it's so cool.
He is.
But, like, he is just psychologically torturing the senator about her abducted daughter. And then he asks if she breastfed Catherine. And he's like, when they amputate a limb, they say you can still feel it tickling. When your daughter's on the slab, where will it tickle you?
Super normal behavior.
He's like talking about, like, oh, toughen your nipples. And then she says, take this thing back to Baltimore.
It's so funny because Hannibal is like, this is something that I really like about the character in the character sense, not in the would not hang with Hannibal. Okay?
No,
but
he's not invited to my Brett Day party.
But he sees Miggs or whatever his name is. He sees the cum thrower as like filthy and disgusting.
Yeah.
But he is also a disgusting pervert who like sexually like tortures women.
Oh, but he's above it.
But he thinks he is. But he's really like also clearly like a slave to his compulsions. His sexual compulsions.
His sexual compulsions and his ego, honestly.
His ego is like so character defining for his character, which is why Clarice is able to play him in the end.
Yeah, and he's maybe the odd serial killer out in that he kills both men and women.
And I'll keep it really short, but I do want to say, shout out to the TV show where I think they wisely bycode him.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was a good choice.
Because I think like that just definitely makes sense for that character.
Also, would hang with Mads Mikkelsen Hannibal, like, would run away with him. I'd be like, you can eat people, I'll just, like, be in the other room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to, but, like, you do your thing, honey, just brush your teeth before you come to bed.
Brush your teeth.
Like,
it's like one of those couples where one's vegetarian and the other isn't. Yes. It's just like, he's a cannibal. And
yeah, exactly. I'm like, just pretend like I have a peanut allergy and, like, every
Yes.
person you eat is a peanut.
It's like, oh, you can make that for yourself, but can you just put some, like, chicken on?
Yeah, exactly.
So, just to finish this movie up, basically there's a switcheroo where the main body, the dude squad, like SWAT team, basically goes to the wrong house.
Yeah, Clarice is like, oh, I figured it out.
And he's like, no, we figured it out.
It's like, oh, we figured it out 2 hours ago, and we're actually on the way. And she's obviously a little, like, hurt.
Yeah,
but
she wasn't included.
But trying not to be, because, like, and trying to just, like, oh, I'm, like, because she is happy that they're going to catch the serial killer. Mm-hmm. She did want that. She does. The whole thing, the whole point of the title, The Silence of the Lambs, points to how much she wants to save this girl. Because it will hopefully help heal her childhood trauma of the lamb that she couldn't save, who was slaughtered on her uncle's farm.
I always skip over that scene.
You were the guy all along.
The real twist,
oh
the
my
switcheroo.
God.
Yeah, no, it's like...
Yeah, it's such a fake out. And she's
like, I'm just going to work through it.
Yeah,
and
Jackson,
like,
just canvas and try to...
Yeah, just tie up some loose ends.
Yeah, tie up some loose ends. So she
goes to the actual house.
But the way it's edited...
It's so good.
It's so good because, like, it keeps showing, like, Buffalo Bill in the basement with Catherine intercutting with, like, the FBI getting in position around the house.
The doorbell's ringing, and we see the FBI pretending to be, like, a flowers delivery.
Stupid. And then they bust into the house.
Empty.
And it's empty, and then it cuts right back to Clarice at her house, where she thinks it's, like, the old lady or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who's at the door but Buffalo Bill? And she doesn't realize it instantly because she's not thinking about it in that sense as much because they're
she's
like...
been told it's over.
She's been told it's over and that he's in like a Chicago suburb.
Yeah.
So she is not expecting to encounter Buffalo Bill.
And it's only when she's like in his disgusting, filthy kitchen and she sees like the butterfly paintings.
Right.
And
she's starting to be like, uh-oh, and then she sees the moth.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, fuck my life. It's him. And I just have me. Like, there is a whole huge, like, SWAT team, whatever.
But they're
in Chicago.
They're in Chicago. They're, hundreds of miles away.
And no one even, like, knows she's there. Like, she didn't even,
Crawford just sort of intuits that she is. He's like, oh, Clarice. And it's, like, because he knows that she's smart and she probably figured it out.
Yeah.
And he didn't listen to her.
Right.
Because she could have said, oh, I have this lead, but they didn't listen because at the end of the day, the only person who ever took her seriously was Hannibal.
Exactly.
Which sucks for her.
It really does.
That's not the person you want to be your only cheerleader.
She has to pursue Buffalo Bill because he grabs his gun and flees into the basement.
And while all this is happening, there's an amazing side quest going on between a woman and her new dog that she's acquired. Little Precious. Yeah,
because
Christine or whatever her name is.
Catherine is no dummy either.
Oh yeah.
Because she figures out the only leverage she could possibly get because she's at the bottom of a well, and but she lures Buffalo Bill's dog with a chicken bone that she ties to the bucket, and she's able to knock that dog right down the well.
Unsuccessful from what we saw, but then
eventually
later on she got
Mister, he's hurt real bad.
Yeah. He's like, don't you hurt my dog. And she says, don't you make me hurt your dog. Clearly I've memorized this movie.
It's so good, though.
It is so good. But yeah.
Sorry, she was also in Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, was she?
We have a lot of... Grey's Anatomy's had a lot of people.
Well, Grey's Anatomy's been on for 25 years.
I just assume everyone's been on that show.
I mean, I've been on it. I've not.
Oh, I loved your episode.
Thank you. It's coming up.
Yeah. And then, Clarice descends into the second version of hell that we see. And this one is so much worse. Maybe the last place on Earth you'd want to be, honestly. Because, there's just bits of skin lying around. There's a fully, putrefied corpse in a bathtub that she finds.
Yeah.
Presumably,
I
it smells crazy in there.
Yeah. To me, presumably it was Mrs. Littman or whatever.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah. You imagine Clarice would go in there and go, bitch, you live like this?
I do.
They also have Screaming Catherine, or she's Screaming Catherine the whole time.
And and she's trying to calm Catherine down enough to just have her stop screaming for a second.
Catherine's so funny.
I know. Well, I get where Catherine's coming from too, but yeah. And then Clarice pursues, it's like a whole labyrinth under the house.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's huge, but she goes in and then the lights turn off and she is in pitch black, feeling around. She knows that there's a serial killer with a gun in there somewhere. And and this to me is the perfect ending because she is in the dark. He is wearing night vision goggles. It is the ultimate male gaze objectification moment. Plus, it is so scary.
Yeah.
I've seen it a million times, so it's lost some of its impact.
And he's toying with her.
Yeah, he's not just trying to kill her. He's trying to
he's fetishizing and coveting her.
He's trying to stroke her hair without her noticing, but you get the sense that if she did, he'd get off on that too.
Yeah.
And luckily she obviously all those hours on the obstacle course, I'm sure she's put in a lot of hours on she has put in a lot of hours on the gun range.
She couldn't see, but she could hear.
Right, because she hears the click of his gun, and she immediately just spins and fires and kills him. And it breaks a window, so then there is some light in. Oh.
Some fresh air in, too.
But I gotta say, that's an amazing ending. It is so tense, and you're just so scared for her. And the odds couldn't be, more against her.
Just you retelling this, I'm
I know. Oh. And then the sunlight comes in, and there's that great shot of the little fan thing that spins, where it's, two butterflies, and then on the other side is one larger butterfly.
Yeah, because, transformation is a big theme.
And then I also felt I felt the transformation, then I also felt it was there's two butterflies, but the only one can be victorious, and that's the bigger one on the other side. And it's Clarice is the big butterfly.
Inside you, there are two butterflies.
One is Buffalo Bill.
Oh, God.
One is making a suit out of women's skin. The other is just a normal lady.
Can I have it in between where I'm just...
Nope.
Okay.
A normal lady with some skin.
Crafting abilities.
So just a crafty woman. Just a woman on Pinterest.
Yeah, a woman of Pinterest.
Well, there was a woman like that in this movie, and there were two of them, actually. And one of them ended up as part of a skin suit, and the other one ended up in a bathtub. So you don't want to be a crafty woman in this,
not in this
particular
universe.
Film.
Not in West Virginia, I tell you what.
No.
But yeah, and then it's we see this, the ceremony, And there's been, like, I always kind of think for a moment that it's like, we're commending Clarice, because obviously not even a full FBI agent, and she single-handedly got every single lead in the case.
Yeah.
All by herself, and apprehended and killed, like, the serial killer, and rescued the girl.
Yeah, and saved the girl before she got killed.
By herself.
Yeah.
With everyone standing in her way. But it's not that, it's just graduation. Like, she doesn't even get anything from it, really.
No, presumably Jack Crawford took all the praise, you know?
And you know he did.
Yeah, of course.
Ugh, I hate Jack Crawford so much.
But she gets a call from her one fan.
Yeah.
And it's Hannibal, and I
Hannibal
love
the Fannibal, as they always say.
God damn it. But, this is,
And he looked happy on a mission.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I
that
love it. And, like, she had said to Ardelia, her friend, before, like, Hannibal won't come after me.
He would find it rude.
She's like, I know this sounds weird, but he would consider it rude. And Ardelia's like, huh? What are you talking about?
Did you guys, sorry, quickly, because we're about to go into Is It Gay?
Yeah.
Do you think that her character is gay in this, or do you think that's just Jodie Foster vibes? Because, like, there's one way to read it, is that she and Ardelia are, like, a couple. Or she's, like, they're on a double date with the two bug dudes at the end.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was, like, a double date with the bug dudes. I think much like, what's her name? From The Faculty, where she was playing a straight character, Clea Duvall.
Yes.
Like Clea Duvall, Jodie Foster has just, like, powerful lesbian energy.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping they'd be a couple, but
yeah,
I'm always.
I liked the bug guys.
I did too. I kind of liked them.
Also the
and
one.
She was like, "Are you hitting on me?" And he was
the
like,
one
"I
time
am."
She does that.
Yeah.
It's because he's like, "Oh, do you want to go get some burgers with me?" And she's like, "Are you hitting on me?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Well, and she's not like, back off. Like, are you hitting on me? She's kind of like.
She likes a guy. She likes a bug
him.
guy.
Yeah.
But not Buffalo Bill. But she likes, I don't know, I guess
like any bug guy.
Mr. Entomologist playing chess with bugs.
Yeah.
Which I thought, or checkers or whatever, which I thought was cute.
Some weirdos.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all these big, powerful dudes. And I guess the ones that she hits it off with are the bug nerds. Which
makes sense to me somehow for her character.
Yeah. I mean, I also think there's something interesting, and we don't need to talk about this, but the sort of Roger Corman casting.
Oh yeah,
in this.
Roger Corman's cameo.
Friend of the pod,
R.I.P.
Who's Roger Corman?
He's like almost like the grandfather of
like
horror,
and in a lot of ways, kind of modern cinema.
Yeah,
because of all of the directors who worked under him before striking out on their own.
And actors.
Yeah, but it's like fucking Martin Scorsese got his start under Roger Corman. James Cameron, Jack Nicholson, like some of these huge, incredibly award-winning.
Even like modern younger actors like Mila Kunis.
Yeah.
Like these are all people. He was a director, producer who just made 5 million bajillion movies and
for about $10 each.
Yeah. He would film them in the original Little Shop of Horrors. He filmed it in like 3 days, like famously.
Yeah.
He would repurpose sets. He was extremely exploitative to both the people who worked under him and within genre. Like he's kind of
he's like, this needs more boobs.
Oh.
Shoot a new scene to add more boobs.
Yeah, famously.
And it was not. It was less because like. It seemed like less like that he wanted to see them, but he was like, to get distribution, it needs to have these things, and so you're going to need to do that. But he also, to his credit, was like the only person in Hollywood for a long time hiring female directors.
I can't wait to see his boobs, sorry.
Well, if you want to see his boobs, you need to rub some vapor rub under your nose.
On a Ouija board? Oh.
Oh, what?
I was trying to contact him. No?
Well, maybe,
no?
but
Okay.
I don't associate Ouija boards with seeing boobs.
I don't
think you
know.
gotta dig them up to see the titties.
I'll just chant something. See
All
what
right.
happens.
It couldn't be me. Don't invite me.
Well, you try your way, I'll try mine. We'll see who's more
You know what?
successful.
I'll just look at my own boobs and just see
Imagine
a few of his
they're on
movies.
Roger
Great.
Corman.
He wishes.
Oh, he'll get a peek one way or another.
All right. We need to rein
Is
this
it gay?
back
Not
in.
really.
Okay, yeah. Is this movie gay? Only Jodie Foster.
Yeah, I give it one Jodie Foster out of the rest of the cast.
Yeah,
Gay.
Jodie Foster's amazing. I think it's fair to say this is one of her best roles, if not her best, but I think she's great in everything she's in. Love Contact. Love that movie. The little girl at the house at the end of the road or whatever that movie was called is really
the
good.
little girl who lives down the lane.
Yeah, that was really good. Shout out to her for almost getting Reagan assassinated.
And then is there anything we loathe?
Is it loathe?
I loathed the jizz.
In general?
Yeah, in general.
The
I'm just
jizz.
saying now.
Is that what the substance is about?
No,
Oh.
jizz is what the music is called in the cantina
Oh, jizz music.
in Star Wars.
And honestly, I hate getting that kind of music thrown in my face.
Yeah, I don't really loathe anything about this. I mean, I think I would have liked it more if she was a lesbian in it, but, you know, I'll take what I can get with my really good movies.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I loathe. I really think this is like a perfect movie. It again, since it is kind of a heavy watch, it's not one I often throw on for just kind of like background or whatever viewing. But I really appreciate
that's
this
Red
movie.
Dragon for me.
Sure.
I quote it almost every day. I don't know why, but all the time I'm like, do you see?
Oh yeah, you do.
Like I do that a lot.
You do be quoting that.
I do be quoting that. I really like that movie. Sam, do you like this?
I do.
Yeah,
I do
alright.
like this movie. Oh,
yeah, and you will too if you haven't seen it, listener.
Yeah, you should watch it. What are you waiting for? It's been out.
It's been out for as long as we have.
Well, not me.
That's true.
Theoretically, this might be. I'm guessing it exists on 4K because we watched a 4K restoration. So
If it's not available for purchase yet, that means it will be shortly.
yeah,
if
my
they've
guess is
done
it will
that.
be, and it looked really good. It's worth seeing again. Honestly,
It is.
especially if you saw it when you were a kid and you just sort of remember it. I think watching it as someone who's if you're our age, someone who is now significantly younger than us as the titular role, the Miss OfTheLambs herself. I think it was a really different experience for me because this is, as I said, not one that I rewatch all the time. I hadn't seen it in years, and it really was a different experience for me being someone who ended up, I mean, now I'm an MX of the Lambs.
Yeah.
But there was a long time there where I was dealing with a lot of that shit that she puts up with in this movie, and it's effective.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to encourage my mom to finally see it 30 plus years postpartum.
Good.
I think it's time.
I think
It's still risky, but
I think you'll
I
be
think
okay.
she will. I think,
Yeah, you might be okay.
I think she'll like it.
you won't have, what the fuck did you say? Fetal
Hannibal syndrome.
Hannibal Sandrome.
Sandrome?
I'm fine.
Sandrome?
Yeah, especially if you only remember it as like, oh, that movie about the serial killer, maybe you should remember the plot. Going into it thinking about how it depicts misogyny, I think will be a very different experience watching it.
I think a lot of women in business can relate. Just the dynamics. So, go watch it and be disappointed in men.
Yeah, you will be disappointed in men watching this, as you likely are in your real life as well.
Yeah. All right, I'm sleepy.
Yeah, on
Let's
that
wrap
note.
this
Good
up.
night.
On that note, if you're a man, fuck you. Unless you're me, in which case,
Fuck
Brett,
you. Oh.
you're cool.
Okay.
Fuck
You
you.
are
Fuck you.
You're cool, and I am pointing at myself. Yeah.
Well, but where are you, cool guy? Where
Well,
can people find
I'm
you?
always on Instagram at Queer and Loathing Pod.
You're sometimes on Instagram, and you're
I'm
not.
hardly ever on Instagram,
and you're
I'm
not
not
on
on
our-
Gmail.
And I would say, and you're not on our Instagram.
No.
You sometimes comment on things, but
Yeah,
That's
you do
true.
participate from
And that's the most
your
you're gonna
account.
get from me on social media is sometimes I'll comment something.
you're somewhere. You're off at the Hermitage.
I am. You don't come looking for me. You're not gonna find me.
But Sam and I are more active
Yes,
on
and then
Instagram. You
you-
can find us there. You can email us.
Mhm.
I mean, at this point, you can just, Google us and you can find our YouTube. We have a link
true.
tree. We have Letterboxd. We're out and about. Please tell other people about this podcast. share it.
Give us a like.
Yeah, give us a like, a little thumbs up, whatever you're on.
A
Rate,
glowing review.
Don't give us a bad review. Only good ones allowed. And that's it.
Yeah.
All right, until next time.
I'm Queer.
I'm Loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Bye.
Bye.